Welcome to another episode of the Washington Retirement Planning Podcast. I'm your host, Ethan Meikle, and here I help Washington State employees get a better sense of how their complicated Washington retirement benefits work so they can utilize these ideas to build better retirement plans and ultimately have it translate into early retirements, paying less taxes, and spending more time with your loved ones. Today, I'm going to talk about the 4 reasons why you should consider getting an annuity for your retirement. I know a lot of people consider annuity a dirty word. The media really puts a bad rap on it all. But when you really peel back the layers and find out all the different types of annuities that are out there and the different strategies you can use while holding one, it can make sense for a lot of people. And more research is coming out to support that having an annuity inside of your portfolio in addition to your other investments can help boost your returns and lengthen the lifespan of your retirement portfolio or generate more income than you could have without one. After we cover all of that, we're going to answer the question for the day. And this again comes from my content survey. If you haven't filled it out yet, the link is in the description or the show notes below. So this is an anonymous survey that I pull questions from the audience. Today's question is asking me if I could explain the significance of having 30 years of service as Washington State employee and the penalties for not having those years of service. So I'll dive deeper into that topic towards the end of the episode. All right, now let's jump right into it.
Reason number 1 why you should consider getting an annuity is for guaranteed income. An annuity is the only investment in the entire world that can guarantee you a lifetime stream of income. The only one. Sure, you can try to put it in the market and hope it works out, but as we've seen this year as well as in years past, they may not always work out because when the markets turn sour, it can greatly affect your entire retirement account and throw off that average rate of return you need to hit in order to take out money each and every year. Also, if your plan is to use dividends off of a portfolio, we've seen this year as well that many companies are slashing and totally eliminating their dividend payouts, and that can greatly affect you. So if you want a guaranteed income stream, an annuity is the only place you can get it from. And when you think of it, an annuity is basically the same thing as your Social Security or any kind of a pension plan. A guaranteed stream of income coming into your bank account every single month. And studies have shown that people that have a guaranteed income stream in retirement live longer and happier lives. The second reason why you should consider getting an annuity is to protect the money. So annuities, while some of them can be designed to give you guaranteed income for life, there's actually a whole new system of them that actually all they do is offer you protection. That's their job. They don't pay out guaranteed income. All they do is protect you from the market. So what they do is they guarantee that your money will not lose when the market goes down, yet a lot of them will track the market index. So in a good year, you get some of the gains. In a bad year, you lose nothing. You just take a 0 for the year and you move on. Then you never make it for any losses, and it's 100% backed by the claims paying ability of the insurance carrier. So you want to make sure you choose a strong one. And protecting your money in retirement is absolutely critical because in retirement, everything changes, and now it's all about preservation and not trying to get you a better rate of return or try to double or triple your account anymore. That time is done. Now you have to make sure this money lasts you the next 20, 30 years, so you always have something to draw on in the future. And all the people that had money in these type of annuities in 2020 were completely protected when the market took that 30% hit, so they didn't lose a dime. And the good news is when the market does recover, they don't have to make up for any losses. So it's just straight profit when the market recovers, which eventually will. The third reason to consider getting an annuity is for the tax deferral benefit. Now this doesn't apply for most people. It's only if you're using money from an after-tax source. So you're moving money from a taxable source like a brokerage account or stocks or like a CD money market. And those accounts where you got those 1099, dividend or interest tax forms from. When you shift assets from those classes into the annuity, they now get this tax deferral benefit. You don't pay any taxes on this money while it's in there, which can definitely help the growth of the account. So the fourth and final reason why you should consider getting an annuity is if you're wanting to eliminate fees and expenses from your retirement portfolio. Now it may seem kind of funny because you probably have heard annuities are really expensive and you shouldn't use them because they charge 3 or 4 or 5% in fees. Well, that's only if you use certain type of annuities. Annuities are variable annuities. So if you want to avoid fees, don't use one of those. So instead, just use a fixed or even a fixed index annuity. Those annuities have no fees if designed correctly. That's right, 0 fees. Now, there's no such thing as a free lunch, obviously. So the catch is you'll either get a certain guaranteed rate of return, or you can be tied to the market but only get maybe half of what the market does. And then you just got to ask yourself, would you be okay with getting some of the gains and none of the losses and paying no fees? Or you can stay in the market and pay, that 1 to 2% a year. So when the market goes up, you're going to go up with it. And when the market goes down, you're going to go down with it. So those fees aren't going to protect you from anything, nor are they going to guarantee any kind of future performance.
Now, a quick side note on that last topic here. Remember that you don't have to put everything into the annuity. A lot of people think it's all or nothing, and you can just have a portion of your funds in annuity, just like you would with any other investment. That way you're not locking up all of your principal. And there are annuities out there that you don't have to lock up your money at all. So if you want to get some type of benefits, but keep it liquid and able for the money to come out anytime you want to, that is also an option for you. So you don't have to lock your money up or have to pay commissions on it or anything like that. There are more and more products coming out to the market. So if you're thinking about, hey, I want to have some type of guaranteed where my money's not going to move, but I still want to maintain access, those options do exist. So there's a lot of different use cases for annuities out there. Now, I'll throw one bonus one your way. I know I said 4, but I just thought of another one. And that is when you're planning for long-term care, a lot of people think they have to go the insurance route. Now, insurance, it can be expensive, of course, but not everyone can qualify for it. So if you're like someone that needs insurance, but you can't qualify for it, or if you do and it's just too expensive, they now have things called long-term care annuities. So these annuity contracts, all they do is pay for long-term care expenses. And essentially what they do is they give you a multiple of your money. So they extend how long your money would last. And the multiple will depend on your age, how much you deposit, of course, and the carrier. But basically, if you said, hey, I have $50,000 sitting in a savings account, it's not really doing much for me, I'm going to put it into this long-term care annuity, then they might say, all right, for the $50,000 annuity contract, we'll make it worth $80,000 for long-term care, or $100,000, they'll double it. So your money sits there, it usually gets invested, it'll grow a little bit, of course. But the primary benefit is if or when you need long-term care, you can actually spend more than what you initially put in there. And of course, if you've never needed it, your beneficiaries would just inherit that $50,000 that you had in there, just like any other account. Now, moving on to the question, and which is explaining the significance of 30 years of service for Washington State employees and the steep penalties that go along if you don't have it. So for Washington State employees, 30 years of service, the reason why it's important is because as soon as you get your 30 years of service, you can either retire at a reduced cost or a few years early, depending on when you got hired. So anyone that was hired prior to May 1st of 2013, as soon as they have 30 years of service, they are now eligible to collect a pension in full, which means no penalties, as early as age 62. And if they wanted to go earlier than that and they have 30 years of service, they have a reduced penalty. And this is, of course, under the 2008 ERF. But if they wanted to go at, say, 61 instead of 62, they'd only be penalized 2%, which is hardly anything at all. If they want to go at 60, that's 5%. And every additional year earlier is an additional 3%. So the earliest you retire is age 55 with a 20% reduction. So for those of you that are hired prior to May 1st of 2013, you guys are able to retire at age 62 with 30 years service and receive full benefits, which means no penalties. So the penalty for going at age 61, 1 year early, with 30 years of service is only 2% penalty, which is almost nothing. At 60, it goes to 5%, and then you add on 3% for every year beyond that. So 59, you're at 8, you're at 11, so on and so forth. All the way to get to 55, the max penalty is 20%. So that 30 years of service is critical for that aspect. For those of you that are hired after May 1st of 2013, the rules changed. Now, if you have 30 years of service, you still have to retire at 65. There is no more 62 retirement. The only benefit now for 30 years is your penalty gets reduced. So now they reduce it to just 5% per year instead of what normally would be like 10 or 11%. So they cut the penalty in half. But it still means if you wanted to retire at age 64 with 30 years of service, you have to take a 5% penalty. And if you retired like other people did in the past at 62, because you're 3 years early, now it's a 15% penalty. So the penalty is fairly steep, even with 30 years of service. So 30 years of service is certainly a goal for those hired to 2013 to retire at 62 with no penalties. And for anyone hired later, 30 years service really doesn't quite have the same desire anymore. So my hunch is that many people aren't going to go for 30 years anymore, or at least kill themselves for it, just because the benefit it isn't really all that great. You still have to go to 65. And if you try to go earlier, it's still a pretty significant penalty. So they can always change the rules, but I'm just not a big fan of what they did to the state pension plan. It really didn't make much sense. I mean, if you look at Washington State, it's one of the strongest funded pension plans in the country. Most of them over 95% funded, meaning that they're able to meet their benefits or the guarantees that the guarantees the state employees. So why the change? I don't know. For anyone that does not have 30 years of service, the penalties are steep, right? So we're looking at 10 to 11% per year that you go prior to age 65. Age 65 is the full pension age. So if you want to go at 64, it's like 10% or so, 10, 11%, and it goes up from there. So they really hit you hard for not having those 30 years of service. Now remember that you only pay penalties when you decide to collect your benefits. If you want to retire, not collect, no penalties. So if you retire at age 58 and you only have 26 years of service, you can still do that. You just can't collect your benefits, that early. Or if you did, you get hit with a penalty. But you said, hey, I'm just going to do a different job, start my own job. I'm going to live with my investments, live with my spouse's income, something like that. You could 100% do that. And then there's no penalty for it at all. So that's why it's really important to have savings outside of your state pension plan. Now, this is especially true for if you're on Plan 2. If you're on Plan 2, remember, you do not have any forced savings like people on Plan 3 do. You are 100% living paycheck to paycheck. So if you want to retire early, you don't want to take penalties, you need to start saving above and beyond what you're currently putting into Plan 2. You're already putting 70% per year into the pension plans. And remember, that's the cash that's there is locked up. That's what's going to generate the guaranteed income for the future from the plan. You can't cash it out. If you do, you get rid of your pension, which is almost never a good idea. This is why you have the deferred compensation plan, 403Bs, Roth IRAs, stock market, whatever you want to put your money. Those options are available, and I encourage you guys to all put that money there because it's going to open up doors and allow you the ability to retire earlier. So 30 years is a very significant number in Washington State. It's something that you should try to strive for. If you're thinking of retiring earlier and you can go at age 62 or something like that. If you're hired after 2013, 30 years of service really doesn't really hold the same depth or benefit as it did in the past. If you're in that boat and you're like, hey, I don't want to work to 65, I don't want to give up 50% of my pension at age 62, then you really need to start getting serious about your retirement savings. Now, you don't need to necessarily save a lot per month. A little goes a long way. It's just the compounding effect. So start with something small. A step forward is still a step forward. You got to start compounding, getting money in the market, and don't worry about the timing of it all. I've met with some people that they're age 24, 25, first in the job. They could do $100 per month into a 403 contract, but they wanted it in cash. They're so worried about the market going down and losing it. And to them, I always have to explain that this money isn't what you're going to be living on tomorrow. You have your salary for that. So if your $100 becomes $8 tomorrow, is that going to change your life? And they always answer no, because I'm not living on it. And then that's the way it should be. You should just put the money in and forget it's there. And then, if you could, go on an island or, kind of close it off and forget about it for 10, 20 years, you just kept doing that, you'd be surprised with how much wealth you have. Anyone in Plan 3, they're forced to put money in there. And that's why they have such large retirement accounts, is because they had forced savings their entire career. If they weren't forced to save, most of them wouldn't have anywhere near that amount saved, because if it's just a habit that they got forced into early. All right, so that answers that question. Remember, if you want more information on your state benefits, visit our blog site, WashingtonWATRSPERS.com. I'm currently working on building out a free course. Also, I'm currently in the works of building out a brand new course specifically for Washington State employees. So this is all brand new content. I'm going to dive deeper into a lot of these topics and just go a lot more in depth than I ever have been on YouTube. So that's going to be coming out later on. Now, if you want to make sure you're on my email list so you can be notified when it comes out, I usually always give some kind of promotion or discount codes when I launch things like this. So make sure you're on our email list, and I'll make sure you guys get notified as soon as it's available. All right, that's a wrap for me. Always remember that your future depends on what you do today. All right, before I sign off, just a real quick legal disclosure that we're required to say as licensed fiduciary advisors. So remember that this is a podcast. It is designed for educational and entertainment purposes only. I don't know you personally, therefore I cannot give you any personal advice. So please don't take anything that we say on the show as being personal, financial, legal, or tax advice. If you want that kind of stuff, make sure you seek out a professional so they can help you with the strategies and investments that are right for you. Also, please remember that despite the name of our show, we are in no way associated with Washington State or the Department of Retirement Systems or any other Washington employer. We're a private-owned firm that specializes in working with Washington State employees, which is why we know so much about this stuff. So remember, we don't work for the state in any way, shape, or form. So please don't confuse us as being an official representative of the state All right, that's it for the legal stuff. I'll catch you guys all next time.